Hey, this is episode number 43 of Gen X Amplified, and today we have another solo episode, and I'm excited because I am going to be talking about and introducing a 5-point framework on how you can develop a powerful personal brand. I love it. What? Okay, my baby girl, my princess wants to get on the mic and do the line. All right, come over here. All right, go ahead, say it.
Are you ready? Let's do it.
If nothing else, if you listen to this episode and just think about these 5 key parts of the framework of brand: build, refine, amplify, nurture, and dedicate, and how they apply to you and your situation.
Welcome to Gen X Amplified, where we bring you inspirational and entertaining conversations with successful Gen X leaders and entrepreneurs.
This is the show created just for you. The powerful generation between the boomers and millennials to help you amplify your story,
Maximize your impact,
and become Gen Exceptional in business and in life.
Now, here's your host, Adrion Porter.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another brand new episode of Gen X Amplified. Once again, this is your host, Adrion Porter, and it is my mission to help you unlock and amplify your unique superpower, maximize your impact, and succeed in life. Thank you so much for always listening to the podcast, for being along this journey, being part of my journey, I should say. And well, you know what? I should say our journey. Listening and sharing this podcast with your friends and family and colleagues. So today we're going to get really tactical. We're going to get really actionable and tactical. This is what I call great commute content. So if you are, and I'm assuming if you're a busy professional, mid-career Gen Xer, millennial, you're probably commuting, whether on the train or in your car. And if you are where I live in Atlanta, you're probably on the interstate for about an hour, depending upon where you work. But, this is great commute content, because that's another value of podcasting, is that you can listen in your car, you can be empowered. But I'm going to get really tactical, because I am going to break down what I consider to be the 5 core elements of how to develop a powerful personal brand. And actually, this is a framework that I've created, that I use with clients, that I actually present when I do workshops or presenting, whether it's keynotes or just working with companies and individuals. I've developed this framework recently that includes 5 core areas of action that you must take to develop a powerful personal brand. So just let me give you a little background first, and then I'm going to get into the meat of why I'm doing this and why I am focused so much on personal brand building today. So many of you may know that I've had the fortunate experience of working as a marketer for some really iconic brands, and many of those years recently as a marketing executive. But now in this current phase of my career, I'm passionately focused on applying many of those brand building principles that I've learned and executed at that level at the HBOs or the Turners, Cartoon Networks, and even most recently at a tech startup, faith-based tech startup, not in a big iconic brand in the traditional sense, but I still feel is iconic in itself of the impact that it's making. That's from iDisciple, the company that I work. But anyway, I'm really focused on applying those principles that I learned at the individual level, because I'm so passionate on the importance of everyone really developing and amplifying their best self through personal brand development. So I wanted to deep dive on this episode and highlight the framework that I've created that I use, and to give you guys a glimpse and give you some actionable tips how you can start your own journey of developing your own powerful personal brand. Personal branding. So you may be asking yourself these questions. Am I really looking to accelerate my career? Am I looking to grow as a leader? Maybe I'm looking to take that leap into entrepreneurship and start a business. Maybe there's a problem that I've identified that I feel that I am the most qualified person to solve. If you are thinking about all of those questions and you've answered yes, which I probably assume many of you have answered yes to either one or more of those questions, I truly feel that in today's competitive marketplace, that the most critical action you must take to grow as a leader, to start a business, to get promoted, to gain more visibility, to create more impact, is to focus on your personal brand. So if you're wondering what is a brand or what is a personal brand, everyone has a personal brand, because I feel everyone is a brand. The difference is how you choose it to be truly defined, either by you or by other people. That is true. Because, at the end of the day, just to, really make this simple, your personal brand really and simply is just your reputation. It is what people think about you, as Jeff Bezos, the founder and the CEO of Amazon, famously said, and I've used this quote and many people have heard it. He said that your brand is what people say and think about you when you are not in the room. That is your reputation. So all of us, by our actions, the things we say, the things we do, how we treat people, all of us form opinions in other people's minds, and we form a reputation and an impression. The difference is how intentional you are of shaping that perception, of shaping that reputation, of shaping that brand that could mean the difference between not getting promoted, not achieving your goals, not starting a successful business, the difference between those dynamics and becoming successful. So I think it's really critical that we focus on personal brand building. Then I think about the current state of the workplace and the future of work. So there are many conversations that I have. Well, if I, as an employee, if I focus on personal brand building, am I fearful and scared that my employer will think that I'm trying to quit, or I'm trying to develop my own thing and they don't want to really see me succeed in developing my brand? Or let's say that you have your own business, or if you are an executive or a leader at a company, that you're thinking, well, maybe personal brand building doesn't really fit in this ecosystem. I tell you, I have a lot of conversations, especially recently, about just the dynamic of personal branding. And it's become more relevant today than it's ever been. There are more companies embracing personal brand development than ever before, because times have changed, and no longer is the communication and the awareness of a company brand only coming from the company itself. Long ago, there was a communication department, and there's still our communication department, but that department was solely the mouthpiece for communicating the essence of a brand, what the brand is doing, their virtues, their strengths. That's no more. And that's no more because of social media. And because of social media, every employee is now a brand ambassador. Think about it. All of our LinkedIn profiles, we include the companies we work for, the descriptions of things we're doing. We like on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. We sometimes like our company's activities. All of the actions we're doing in this social digital world has an impact on the brand. So I truly believe that it is of a company's best interest to focus on developing everyone on their staff and their talent pool becoming the best of who they are. Because I believe that the greatness and success of an organization is the sum of the greatness of each individual employee. Thus, the need for personal brand building. So I've developed a 5-part framework after carefully researching other brands, both personal and business. I've identified these core principles that I feel embody these actionable steps that need to happen to create a powerful, profitable, personal brand. And so I'm going to go through them one by one. And I've made this very, very simple. And I made it simple by just simply using the word brand. I use it as an acronym. So the 5 letters, B.R.A.N.D, brand. And I broke them down into 5 key actionable steps and tips and rules, whatever you want to call them, of how if you use these steps and if you take action and you put forth the effort, and it's not that difficult, but it does take focus and action. And I work with individuals and companies through this. I assure you, your brand will become more powerful. You will gain more interest, and it will position you better, not only as an employee, but a professional, an entrepreneur, and achieve your goals. The 5 key areas. So now I'm going to go through them quickly, and then I'm going to go through each one individually and give you the highlights of each step. So the framework is B.R.A.N.D. Number 1, build the key elements of your brand DNA. And I'm going to go through this. So this is really where it starts. And number 2, refine your personal and professional narrative. This is all about taking who you are and refining, sharpening, or smoothing out the edges and really getting your narrative straight. Number 3 is then amplifying your unique story and your ideas. Number 4, nurture your network and relationships with your colleagues, with your clients, your customers, your community, whatever bucket you fit in. And then the D for dedicate and devote your time to consistent action. So quickly, build the key elements of your brand DNA, the core of your brand. Number 2, refine your personal and professional narrative. 3, amplify your story and your ideas. 4, nurture your network and relationships. And lastly, 5, dedicate and devote your time to consistent action. So I hope you caught that. And I'll have these written out in the show notes, but I try to make it simple as possible. But what I want to do now is go through each step and highlight the key areas of this 5-part framework. So the first one, the B in brand, is all about building. This is building the key elements of your brand DNA. This is the bedrock, I believe, the bedrock and the foundation of which your overall brand is built. And I call it kind of a framework within a framework. And I actually wrote about this, and I did another solo episode a couple years ago about this. So this is the core of really defining what your brand is, who you are. Just like organically or an organism, your DNA really defines and identifies who you are. And there's certain elements of that brand DNA. I believe that every brand has these key elements. And again, those are broken out into 5 parts. Number 1, what is your brand purpose? Number 2, your brand positioning. Number 3, your brand promise. Number 4, your brand values. And then 5, your brand expression. Those are the key elements, I believe, of your brand DNA. Now, if you notice, I did not talk about anything with respect to marketing. I didn't talk about communication. This is where you start. If you want to define who you are in your brand, you have to really break down the key elements of your brand DNA. So those elements, again, number 1, your brand purpose. That's essentially who you are, why you matter. Your purpose, that higher order benefit element of your brand. Before you even think about a logo, a headshot, you need to define that first element of your brand DNA of your purpose. Number 2, your positioning. How do you want to be uniquely positioned in the marketplace? How do you want to be positioned at work? Do you want to be seen as someone that's very action driven, that's an executor, or do you want to be seen as someone that is very strategic? If you are an entrepreneur and you have a business and you're building a brand around that, how do you want to be positioned in the marketplace? That is your brand positioning. That is the second element of your brand DNA. Thirdly, based on that positioning, what is the promise that you want to deliver to the marketplace? What is the promise that you want to deliver every time someone interacts with you at work? That is your brand promise. Fourthly, what are your brand values? What are your core values that drive you to do what you do? And then lastly, you take all of those previous elements and then you can then think about how do you want to visually, vocally express your brand? Logo, name, all of those elements, the clothes you wear, that is your brand expression. And so again, these are what I call your key elements of your brand DNA. And that is literally the first step, the first action that you have to take when it comes to thinking about developing your powerful personal brand is you need to sit down and understand, okay, I want to develop my brand. I want to better understand my brand. Well, I need to go through these 5 key elements of my DNA, the core of who I am. So that's number 1. first part of the framework is build the key elements of your brand DNA. All right. So number 2 of this 5-part framework, the R in brand, refine. That is refining your personal and professional narrative. This is really all about who you are and what you stand for in your story, and taking those elements and just connecting the dots from all of your career experiences and your milestones, your through line. This is your story. But what's key here is I say you need to refine your narrative. So many of us, especially at this stage of our careers, we're thinking about reinvention, or we want to either accelerate in our current role at our job, or we want to maybe transition to another company, or we may want to start a business, or let's say that we're out networking with individuals and we meet someone that we haven't seen before. And you think about your personal brand. Again, it is the perception that you create in the marketplace or in front of other people, and it's the perception and the reputation. A lot of times you only have a couple of seconds to make a good impression. That's all it takes. So it's really important for you, when you're developing this powerful personal brand, to understand what is your narrative, what is your through line, how do you take all of those previous experiences and your expertise and your future ideas and the goals that you want to do, maybe the new business or the new position that you want to move into in your job. How do you package that into a clean, compelling, cohesive narrative? This is a very important element that many of us overlook. Just think about the last time that you were in front of someone and you had a couple of seconds to make an impression, and you were trying to get your words together, and you were trying to describe who you are, what you do, why you matter. If you're you're interviewing for a new company and they're asking you those questions about your expertise and your past experiences and the challenges and the problems you've solved, you have to understand your narrative, your story. And so again, after the first step of building that brand DNA, understanding those core elements, that's very emotional, the core of who you are, then think about, how do I articulate the equity of my personal brand? What is it that distinctly separates me from my colleagues or my competitors in the marketplace? Why should people listen to me or engage with me? This is where your narrative really comes to fruition. So again, it's really important to be able to explain and articulate with clarity and passion your narrative, your experiences. What do you do? What do you stand for? Your story. Really, really important. So again, number 2 of this 5-part framework is refining your personal and professional narrative. All right, here we go. We're down to number 3. This is actually right in the middle of this framework, the third element. And it's in the middle appropriately, because I feel that this is at the heart of the powerful personal brand framework. And that is A, amplify your story and your ideas. This is where the rubber meets the road. and this is where you allow your brand to flourish and connect and engage with your intended audience. So think about this. You focus on, in the beginning, building out the elements and understanding and defining your brand DNA, your purpose, how you want to be positioned, what is your promise, how do you want to be seen? Just think about all of these intangible and somewhat tangible elements, right? Building your DNA. Then you start to take those elements and think about refining and articulating, what is my narrative? Speaking on that, refining your personal narrative, coming up with those 1 to 3 sentence statements about 1 to 3 statements about who you are and why you matter. Being able to communicate based on who your audience is, the key equity of who you are and your virtues and your ethos. But then the amplify your story and ideas element, the third one, the heart of it. This is where it all comes to fruition. And much too often, I believe the conversation around personal branding centers solely on social media and digital platforms. This is a mistake. I truly feel that this is a mistake, because while those platforms are important, it's really critical to have both offline and online presence. So when we think about amplifying and telling our story, it's not just social media. Now, social media is a critical and important part of this, if not more so, because we are in a digital world. But I wanted to make sure that you know and understand that your offline presence is really, really important, because you have to establish being very effective and engaging and attractive in person. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be an extrovert or a talkative person. It does not mean that. It means that if you have opportunities where you're in front of individuals or companies or prospects or anyone or any situation, if you have an opportunity to tell your story and move the needle, you need to make sure that you are fully prepared to take advantage of that opportunity. And so that's where amplification is really key and important. And again, I believe this is at the heart of the brand framework, is the amplification of your brand. And remember this, that a brand that's not seen or heard or stands out is a brand that doesn't exist. Remember that. A brand that is not seen or heard is a brand that doesn't exist. And so this is really key and critical, especially if you are within the workplace. So, if you're an employee and let's say that you do want to transition into a better position or you want to get promoted again, you have to be able to tell your story of the things that you're doing, all the great things that you're capable of and you're doing, the problems that you've solved. And a lot of times, and I've experienced this firsthand personally, and I've seen it, we may be doing some awesome things, especially as a Gen Xer. Think about this audience. As mid-career professionals and especially Gen Xers, many of us, we're great at doing the work, but we're not so great at telling our story and amplifying all the great things we're doing. I remember an episode that we talked about this on Gen X Amplified, my interview with Carrie Kirpin from Likeable Media and the book Work It. Great conversation, but she also underscored that many of us as Gen Xers, we don't do an effective job of telling our story. This is where the amplify your story and ideas is so key when it comes to building and developing a powerful brand. You have to communicate. You have to tell your story. Now, it doesn't mean you have to create a blog all the time or create a podcast. Just be able to share and communicate your unique perspectives and insights. Okay. So if you're looking for upward mobility or even a lateral move into another desired role at your company, if you're an employee, you must bring attention to who you are and why your ideas can add value to that specific role. This positions you in better detail versus the others or the competition. So make sure that you amplify your story, your unique story, and your ideas broadly to the people that matter to you. Okay. And I think about me personally, as an example, my focus and passion on empowering my generation, Gen X. So as an entrepreneur, recent entrepreneur, I make sure that the core elements and virtues and the quirks, all the good and even the bad sometimes, if I feel that is germane to my brand, I make sure that I do amplify that, whether it's, the way I podcast or engage in social media or even visually with the shirts that I wear. Actually, one of the shirts that I'm wearing for the image for this episode has Gen X Amplified on it. This is a representation visually of my brand. I have a show, I have a platform. And so this is part of amplifying who I am and the elements of my uniqueness, if you will. So again, amplify your story and your ideas. I spent a little more time on that because that is at the heartbeat of all of this. You can have a great brand. You can be phenomenal. You can be iconic. You can be powerful. But if you do not tell your story and get it out there, nothing will come from it. Okay. Or you won't achieve the goals that you probably wish you want to achieve. So I'm really key on that. And I'm excited because we do have all of these tools and all these opportunities to better tell our story. That's why I get excited when I talk about brand amplification, especially personal brand building, because all of you have this great opportunity to amplify who you are and why you matter in the marketplace. Okay. So that was the third element of this 5-part personal brand framework. Fourth, the N in brand, the acronym: nurture your network and relationships. Okay. I'm going to say that twice because This, again, all of these elements are important, but this one is critical. Nurture your network and your relationships. There's this great and famous quote by Maya Angelou that I love, that many people love and many people use, where she says, and I quote, "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." That is so true. How you engage with others, how you nurture your relationships with people, with colleagues, with customers, with your family, with anyone, says a lot about your brand. And it says a lot about the success that you're going to achieve and the greatness that you're going to have in life. It's a direct correlation. This is all about how you add value. If you want to have not just a brand, because all of us, we're all brands, not just having a personal brand, but having a powerful personal brand, you must have a help first attitude and approach. You must focus on adding value and nurturing and cultivating your relationships with people. This builds trust and credibility. I focus a lot on this when I do meet one-on-one or consult or work with companies on brand development, because these core principles also apply again to just company brands too, because company brands and organizations, they have customers that they have to engage with, that they have to motivate to buy their goods or buy their services. And so there's a relationship dynamic there. But specifically also with personal brand development, I talk about this a lot and I work with people, and this is an area that's also overlooked many times. Is that, yeah, we put it out there, we get great headshots, or we're engaging on social media, we're creating content, we may buy a new suit or a new dress. We're thinking about all of these visual aesthetics, which are important. But when it comes to actually providing value, affecting how people feel when they engage with you, that's where some of us fall short. And it's not easy. It's not easy. You're dealing with other individuals. It's like you have this responsibility placed on your shoulders, of motivating how someone else feel. But I tell you, if you get that right, if you crack that code, if you do it consistently, it becomes easier. And it's critical. And again, even applying to corporate employees, your coworkers and your peers are your community. You have to effectively learn and act on, how do I develop better relationships with these individuals? And especially as Gen X leaders, people that are mid-managers or have colleagues that work under them, and also employees and colleagues that manage them. Again, we're that middle generation where we're right in the middle. We're bridging the gap, if you will, between the elder boomers and the younger millennials. So it's even more critical for us to think about, how do we become a better bridge builder? How do we nurture these relationships both to the right and to the left, from the top and to the bottom? Because we have a very unique point of empowerment, vantage point that we have of affecting influence and impact. And again, this is so key and critical. So this is at the heart of personal brand building. This really helps shape your brand, help others, add value, encourage others, become a leader that's more about influence and impact than positioning. Just because you are a VP or in the C-suite and you have that role and that title, that doesn't mean anything if you cannot influence and motivate someone to become the best of who they are. That's all about nurturing your relationships. So again, nurture your network and your relationships. And your network, I kind of put them in like the 4 C's. There's your customers, your community, your clients, and your coworkers, based on who you are. So nurture your relationship and your network. All right, now we're down to the last element of this 5-part framework, the D in brand. And this is where, the previous elements will be highly effective. But if you do not, and this is it, if you do not dedicate and devote time to consistent action all of this would just go to waste. Well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say go to waste, but it won't become as effective as it should be. You have to dedicate time to consistent action. It's all about consistency. So think about this. You just can't develop a brand. You just can't come up with a positioning. You just can't think about pushing content into the marketplace. You just can't focus on developing a really great relationship with someone one time and just let it go to waste and just leave it be and leave it to chance. You have to stay focused on this process over and over again, and it becomes second nature to you. So you have to really think about the time that you dedicate on consistent action and expanding your presence, making sure that you go back and think about your narrative. You may transition to another organization, or you may start another business, or you may engage with someone or meet someone new at a networking event, at church, wherever the case may be. You may come in contact with someone that you may work with, or you may develop a relationship with, that may need something else that's within your brand ethos. They may need something else from you. Or you may have something that you may not have thought about initially that's now more germane and relevant to your goals. You may develop new skill sets or new skills. You may have gone and taken a new course on LinkedIn or what have you that positions you better in the marketplace. Now what you need to do is go back and look at your narrative, look at your bio, look at your 2 to 3 sentence summary. And maybe you need to refine it. So that goes back to just dedicating time and consistent action, going back over, looking at all the elements of your brand and being focused, being diligent, and put forth an effort and being intentional. Again, taking advantage of opportunities, devoting time to skill development. I just mentioned skills. I'm a big proponent on focusing on your skills. We have so many platforms available to us, both free and paid, but a lot of free stuff. I mean, think about it. You can learn a lot from just going to YouTube and typing in, I want to learn how to, create a logo. I'm just thinking of something. I want to learn how to speak in front of people. I mean, there's so many things that you could do that, if you put forth the right effort and time, that you can get for free, or you can invest in your future and invest in a coach, invest in a consultant, invest in a course. I mean, there's so many opportunities for you to really think about honing and developing your skills that I feel will really propel you to success. So again, D, dedicate and devote time to consistent action. All right. So that's the 5-point essential guide to building a powerful personal brand, or I should say developing a powerful personal brand. I'm going to go through them quickly again and summarize. So in summary, build, refine, amplify, nurture, dedicate. Number 1, build the elements of your brand DNA. The elements, the 5 elements of your brand DNA, your brand promise, your brand purpose, your brand purpose, your brand positioning, your promise, your values, and your expression. Number 2, refine your personal and professional narrative. Who are you? What is your story? What is your through line? Number 3, then amplify your unique story and your best self into the marketplace. Amplify, communicate, make yourself be seen, make yourself be heard. Tell people all the great things that you're doing. Tell your colleagues, make sure that your boss knows what you're doing, making sure that your prospective customers, if you're starting a business or have a business, know the value that you're bringing. Amplify it. Number 4, nurture your network and your relationships. Provide value. Provide value. Give. Can't say that enough. And then number 5, the D, dedicate and devote time to consistent action. So I hope that was helpful. This is a framework, and I call it again the 5-point powerful personal brand framework. It's a guide. It's a framework that I use, and I go into more detail when I use this with clients or if I'm speaking about this. There's a lot of additional tools that will help you to build out your brand DNA. I have questionnaires and have fun exercises. And again, this takes very intentional focus and deliberate action. but it does position you in a way to think about, how do I create a powerful personal brand? And I wanted to do this, and I focus on this because too often times when people, again, think about branding or brand, they only think about, well, my brand is my logo, or my brand is my headshot, or my brand is what I'm wearing, or my brand is this one social media account that I have, or social media accounts. And that is not your brand. Those things are your part of your brand expression, and they're key and they're critical, but that's not what makes you you. If you think about the powerful brands that are out there, the iconic brands that you engage with, that you invest your money in buying their goods or services, or your attention, if you will, do you really engage with them on a consistent basis just because of what they look like or their logo? Is Oprah who Oprah is as a powerful personal brand because of the little O logo? I don't think so. It's about the value that she provides on a consistent basis. Do you sit at Starbucks for a couple hours or invest in their $3 to $4 latte that you can simply make at home because you love the way the green mermaid logo looks? Is it? I don't think so. I think about my own personal experience, and I work for HBO, one of the most iconic brands out there, and very excited and proud to have worked at that great organization. HBO focus, and I've heard even their CEO say this, and I remember when I was there, it's all about differentiated excellence, excellent storytelling, excellent content, owning Sunday nights. It's not because of the logo. Your brand is a combination of many elements, both visual, aesthetic, verbal, emotional, intentional elements that are all packaged together that you need to focus on to really propel you to success. So again, I really encourage you and I challenge you to think about your personal brand, especially if you're looking to accelerate in your career, if you are looking to make more impact, especially as someone in that Gen X generation where you have this tremendous opportunity to propel yourself to greater heights, to achieve greatness, to have more influence, to create more impact, to achieve your goals, to achieve success, to become more engaging, not only at work, but also at home. The way you interact with your kids, with your family, with your parents, with your friends, the way you have an opportunity to nurture better relationships, to just position what people think about you when you're not around. So people can say, hey, she is awesome. She's phenomenal. I get a lot from her. She makes me feel like I'm a hero, that I'm the only one in the room. I would love to buy that person's good or services. I would love to develop a strong relationship with he or she. That's what personal brand building is really all about. So again, this framework, I'm actually going to do more content around this. I'm going to do probably some videos and break down each element and go into even more detail than I did today, because again, I only have 30 to 45 minutes or so for a podcast episode. But I hope that what my goal was to provide you at least with some actionable tips and thoughts, some thoughts to chew on as you really think about your own personal brand. And are there certain gaps that you have in your life, in your business, that you need to fill in order for you to become a stronger personal brand, in order for you to position yourself for greater success? But if you're looking for help, if you want some more encouragement, definitely, feel free to reach out to me. I love working with people. I'll be a sounding board. I'll talk to you more about these elements and some of the tools that I provide or promote that will help you in these different areas. There's a process and a format, and it's fun, it's exciting. But again, if nothing else, if you listen to this episode and just think about these 5 key parts of the framework of brand: build, refine, amplify, nurture, and dedicate, and how they apply to you and your situation, I guarantee you that alone just from this episode will have you start thinking differently about who you are as a brand and the steps that you need to take, because you can see the finish line. You can see yourself creating more impact as a leader. You can see yourself creating more impact as a professional. You can see yourself having better and stronger relationships with people. And again, that translates to just overall greatness. It translates into revenue if you're a business, and income, and just a happier life, because that's what you deserve as someone that's exceptional and powerful as you are. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Take care and continue to be great. Okay, that was it. Another solo episode on how to develop a powerful personal brand using a 5-part strategic framework of the acronym B.R.A.N.D, which is build, refine, amplify, nurture, and dedicate. Definitely check out the show notes to learn more and listen to the episode at any given time on your mobile device. Actually, speaking of personal brand, if you notice in the intro, I had the pleasure of having my baby girl get on the mic. My daughter Kaylin, which everyone calls her KK, she wanted to grab the microphone and do the intro, which I thought was sweet. So again, see, she is part of my brand, my family, and I'm a family guy. And those of you who follow me know that I tend to show a lot of pictures and talk about my family. But again, that is part of me amplifying my story, and that is unique to me. Well, anyway, as always, I want to thank you for your time for listening to the podcast. And don't forget to go over to genxamplified.com to get the show notes. And also you can find Gen X Amplified on your mobile device through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and wherever you happen to listen to podcasts. Again, I'm Adrion Porter, and you're listening to Gen X Amplified. And remember, as always, this is more than a podcast. This is a movement. Take care.